Greetings, brothers and sisters. As we go into the new year, I want to give you a little food for thought. I've been watching some of these teachers on YouTube and television, some of these apostles. I won't call any names, but they make themselves look good by making others look bad, calling out other preachers and teachers. And I can understand correction. But there's a difference between correction and judging. Now, I want to read you something. I want to kind of set the stage a little bit. In Malachi, chapter 3, verse 6, now there are other books that you can read, the Quran, the books of Hinduism, Judaism, the Torah, the Bible. I'm just talking about the wisdom and the knowledge, the nugget, not necessarily the book, because there are no books that are absolute. Only God is absolute, Yahuwah. But anyway, I want to read you this. It says, "For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." The last part, I just want you to understand that God, Yahuwah, said, "I am the Lord, I change not." Now, about the word, Jesus, Yahushua, this was said, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Now, here's my point. I won't be with you long, but there's a contrast between Paul, the Apostle Paul, and what the word, Yahushua, Jesus said. Yahushua, Jesus said in Matthew, reading from the Bible, okay, chapter 7, verse 1 through 5. Don't judge so that you won't be judged. For with whatever judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with whatever measure you meet or measure, it will be measured unto you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but don't consider the beam that is in your own eye? Or how will you tell your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and behold, the beam is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First remove the beam out of your own eye, and then you can see clearly to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. Luke 18 and 10, 10 through 14. Luke 18, 10 through 14. I'm not going to read that to you, but it's basically at the end, in verse 14, it talks about exalting, about the two men who was at prayer, and one made a certain kind of prayer, and the other one made another kind of prayer. You can read it yourself. It's in Luke 18, verse 10. But it identifies the one that did not exalt himself. That was the one that the Lord would rise up. And the one that did exalt himself, well, read it. Now, the contrast I want to talk about briefly is Apostle Paul. And you get people that'll come at you real quick talking about what it says in 1 Corinthians. Don't you know that the saints will judge the world? 1 Corinthians 6, 2 through 3, verses chapter 6, verses 2 through 3. Don't you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is judged by you, you are unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Let me read that again. That came out wrong. Don't you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Don't you know that we will judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? And see, here's where Paul then misled and contaminated the thinking of people, because the word was in the beginning, not Paul. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not shooting Paul in the foot or saying Paul had no validity. But that's basically the same thing about the Bible. It's not absolute. It's contaminated with our own thinking, us, me and you. Like other books, anything that man has control over, he will manipulate. But anyway, that's contrary to what the word said. And Yahuwah, Jesus Christ, was the word. In the beginning was the word. Remember now, I also stipulated that Jesus is the same yesterday and forever. Also, remember this, the Lord God changes not. So how can he say, I'll read it to you again, part of it anyway. Don't judge so that you won't be judged. For whatever judgment you judge, ye shall be judged, or you will be judged. And then he tells us, stop trying to fix other people before we fix ourselves. As I said, there have been some apostles I've been seeing on YouTube, and they have this grand platform, and they've been calling out other apostles and other preachers and other teachers. And as I said, I won't disagree with some of the things they say pertaining to the wrongness, but I asked each and every one of you, anyone listening or paying attention, who are you? We all fall short. There's not one man standing before any other man can say that they are perfect. I don't care if you're talking about a judge in a court of law. They say we're a country of laws. These laws are being manipulated. That's another story. Just like the Bible, just like other books pertaining to moral development and growth, cultivation, contaminated. Anyway, as I said, I won't be with you long, but I want to stipulate and talk about going into 2022. We cannot go back to this hellfire and brimstone teaching. We cannot make ourselves brighter by making other people duller. Calling them out, that in itself is contrary to what the word. The word says, go to your brother. If you want to talk about using the scriptures, take someone with you. I'm paraphrasing now, but you understand the concept. Those who are supposed to be elevated understand. But if you're not, then listen to what it's saying. It's telling us not to make accusations that would put our brothers and sisters on the spot, on blast, but to go to them and see if we can help them, pray for them, talk to them, and let God deal with them. We have too many issues of our own to deal with. Now, once again, I'm not saying that a lot of us, myself included, that we don't make mistakes. I'm saying that we're all imperfect and we all make mistakes. Now, let's talk a little bit about using that word judging. Here's some food for thought. Judging in the sense of me identifying for myself what I will participate in and what I will not participate in, how I see some negative conduct and actions, and how I take what I see and use it to help me grow and develop a moral compass and not participate in that. That's making righteous judgments pertaining to evaluating ourselves, helping to create a better thought process or core thought process within ourselves instead of taking what we have perceived as a valid point of righteousness and using it to identify someone else's imperfection. That is the wrong concept of judging. Yahuwah, Jesus, said, don't judge. Paul came along and said, we're going to judge the angels. I have no grievance with Paul, but I understand Paul was a man. And Paul had his own prideful mindset as he initially identified with his persecution of the followers of Christ because of the Torah, the law that he was brought up in, saying, hey, this is the way and it's the only way. And I'm killing everybody that says it's not. And he had experience with the word. As I said, I'm not going to stay before you long. I just wanted to comment on how I've seen, as I said, on YouTube and on television, all of a sudden we have this profound, I am without fault and I stand above everyone else. Man with his team and his cult. Well, I shouldn't say man, men. But it was this one apostle that I was observing, and I'm like, here we go, another cult. You see, this should be about developing a moral compass. This is about the Spirit bringing about revelation. Sorry, that's that word up, tongue-tied. Bringing about, incorporating within us revelation. And as we get the revelation of the Spirit, we get to cultivate what has been revelated. And as we cultivate it, we are elevated. And we are elevated beyond finger pointing. Yes, if we identify stealing is wrong, murder is wrong, rape is wrong, things that are negative, things that identify the negative aspect of our conduct as men and women, how we interact, those things, just those things that identify to mislead the people. Someone even teaching false concepts. But we can't judge them. I read where it said, two things are promised. One is death, and after death, then the judgment. That means that only God can judge. As I said, I didn't want to stay before you long. I just wanted to bring a little bit of my thinking, food for thought on this subject. Again, remember, judging, meaning to take our own selves on the task and evaluate how we operate and what we do and how we apply ourselves and interact with certain things and making good decisions about not doing those things. Doesn't mean to point fingers at and devalue another human being or to place ourselves in the spotlight and make them look smaller because we want to identify the corruption that's in them and then hide the corruption that's in us. When in fact we all have some level of corruption. So we should pray for one another, help one another, overcome the demonic negativity of our core thought process as it has been contaminated by these false examples, vain doctrines. Well, as I said, just a little bit. Thank you. Blessing to you. And don't judge. unless you're fixing your own errors, creating your own moral compass.